music I want in my locker.
Hey folks, John David here with Boom Sticks and Pew Twigs. Y'all recognize this guy? He's been here before. It's KD. It's Kevin Dixie, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Train and Learn himself.
Just humble. That energy you bring in that intro is rather impressive. Especially on day 3.
I struggle for it every day, and as you know, I'm still recovering from surgery. So we're here, folks, and hey, we want to talk about something a little serious this time because I know the first movie we did was a little bit happier and stuff. I didn't know it at the time. Katie was going through something. Again, that's his story to tell, but he really needed that laugh. I actually went somewhere.
Okay.
That you instructed me on, gave me some education about the first time we met. I got to go to Greenwood. My wife and I finally got to go to the museum.
Oh, you actually went down there.
Yes, I'm actually from Oklahoma. I knew about Greenwood, but in the version of history that they taught us was not the truth. It was like the very surface level, and then when we started talking that 20, 30 minutes we stood in Range West talking, giving me the information you did, and it was an eye-opening experience. I mean, I knew some of the stuff. I even read the book, The Assassination of Black Wall Street, which, by the way, is out of print. You can't find it anywhere. Maybe PDF, if you want to Google it. But let's talk a little about Greenwood, Oklahoma. And again, I'm going to throw some stuff up on here. I'm going to pull my phone up and show you some of the stuff that I got to see. But I want to highlight and get your perspective on why the Second Amendment is so important in this country. Why stuff like Greenwood should never happen if we live in a free society and we're allowed to protect ourselves.
Well, I think so. That's a good question. One, that's a very good question, and this is what I want your audience to hear. And in order to receive the message, guys, you have to set all your biases to the side and just listen. So, based off the question that was just posed, let's go back to what people consider the foundation, if you will, of the Second Amendment. Right? So people don't normally bring up the ratification of the Second Amendment. They normally just bring up 1776, which is fine. I mean, so you bring up 1776. There's an emotional tie to that because freedom, British get away, taxation, no representation, taking our crops, farms, telling us what to do all the time. In America, fall back against that. Second Amendment is obviously a very important part of that. And when we fast forward in history, well, before you even fast forward, when you talk to an American who understands that to even the minutia, they'll say, yeah, this is why the Second Amendment is important because, screw tyranny.
Right.
What people need to realize is once you say that, very few people will disagree with you. Right? Like,
right.
If
absolutely.
So there's no argument. So what I would tell the audience is, hold that, but think about this. Do you want to be right or do you want to win? Hold on to that. So do you want to be right? Do you want to win? So when you say 1776, you're right. But when you fast forward to 1921, the Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, or disparagingly called Little Africa, Black Wall Street. When you get to that, you're looking at Americans that were underarmed, under heavy restrictions. They were one of the fortunate communities that actually had enough resources to even get permits to own certain guns. They were limited to what they could own, and because they had military vets, some of them were able to get past. And because it was a community that was thriving, one of many communities like it around the country, they could afford to pay the permit processing fees. But the Second Amendment, or the limitation of the Second Amendment, kept them from being free, thus kept them from being slaughtered based off of a lie that the entire community was eradicated in 24 hours. So when you think about that, the Second Amendment is very, very important. And you're not wrong with some of your general arguments. What you need to realize is the Second Amendment has not always been for everyone. As a matter of fact, black codes predate the establishment of the United States of America. This is back to colonial times, where they had already written in codes that black individuals were not allowed to own firearms. So gun control in this country, factually, this isn't an opinion, started for people that look like me. Period. There's literally no historical argument about that. It started with people that look like me. So when you fast forward and you ask me, why is the Second Amendment important? And then you bring Greenwood up. Well, it's like, look, 1776 happened. You relate that date to the Second Amendment. And yet in 1921, I was still limited with arms and could be slaughtered in less than a day. And there's nothing that the government would do to help me. So, 2 lessons. 1, stop thinking that your date of celebration is everyone else's date of celebration, and it does not mean they love this country any less than you do. It's just a historical fact. Nobody has to partake in your piece of the pie to still eat out of the same pie. But we also have to realize that without the Second Amendment, we're all up for slaughter.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna show you a picture. I'm gonna also put it up on screen for those editing. Dave, definitely do this. This was the most important picture or section of this mural for me.
Okay.
Because even when I was there, the folks that were showing me around, they didn't know some of the stuff that you informed me on. As that what stopped Greenwood was people coming in from other communities and like, no, there are people dying.
Yeah.
We need to stop this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the most important pictures. I'm going to zoom in. It's 2 of the community members standing in the front. Army vet with his rifle on his shoulder, standing in the rubble of what used to be Greenwood, Oklahoma, trying to figure things out. It's very powerful for me, in my opinion. One, it shows, hey, people fought back.
Yeah.
But it's also very somber and sad because they're standing in rubble.
Yeah.
If you zoom back out, you can see just destruction everywhere.
Yeah.
And again, it was a really intense experience going through that museum. Have you got to go yet?
I haven't actually been to the museum. I've studied a lot. Every time I get down by that way, I never make it. But it's on my hit list.
Yeah, it's a very intense experience. And again, I know that I probably, like, some people are going to say I shouldn't have opinion based on that stupid fact on this, but I still can empathize with the fact that people, women, men, women, and children were slaughtered because you got more stuff than I do. Ah! What the hell? And also, okay, I'll let you.
No, I'm sorry. I mean to interrupt. Well, here's the thing. This is how cognitive dissonance plagues our country. In one breath, people will say, hey, we're all Americans. Once again, you're not wrong. Nobody's wrong when they say that. But if we're all Americans, then you absolutely can and should be able to speak about atrocities that happen to other Americans.
Exactly. And
So that should just be out the window.
right. And, again, me personally, I don't care. I stick to my guns. We've interacted enough. I'm not backing down for saying, no, this was wrong. We need to definitely concentrate on this,
Right.
and definitely doing the research and all that, and being advocates for the Second Amendment. Gun control, like you said, in this country is rooted in racism and evil.
Yeah.
And if you support it, well, you kind of put yourself in those 2 categories. That experience, going through that museum, was very emotional, because they had stuff in there that, one, I didn't know existed. Like, they had the manuscript, somebody who wrote detail for detail, handwritten, of the events that took place. And it's not released because it was suppressed.
Of course.
And, again, the reason why I'm talking about this is because, part of me considering you my friend and mentor was like that 30-minute conversation you had with me in the range, re-educating me on something that, one, I lived in Oklahoma. I only got a piece of that story, a very, very small fraction. And I want to highlight it. And again, guys, I know this is not my usual content, but it's very important we talk about this. It was also something that helped to inspire you to do something, because you have something called the Greenwood Project, right?
Correct.
Could you talk to a little bit about? Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So when you and I know obviously we can't cover it all in this video, but hopefully it prompts you to go do your own research on Greenwood, right? To get more of the information and more of the details. But Greenwood, being a community that was self-sustaining and that was destroyed, one of the reasons, not saying they would have won because a gun doesn't guarantee victory, but one of the contributing factors to why they lost and couldn't protect themselves was inadequate arms, and also inadequate amount of people trained with even the available arms, if you will. Looking at individuals that built something great and had it snatched from them overnight, it touches me in a different kind of way. But so when I thought about my community outreach program called Aiming for the Truth, where we go in and we try to educate, help, and assist individuals with building up their human equity, with education, with understanding finances, reading, mentorship, mental health issues. When you look at those things, and you go back and you look at one of the communities like Greenwood, it's like, well, what were they doing? Had their own businesses, building our own ecosystem, right? Educating each other, because obviously segregation is a huge thing back then. So they built their own ecosystem, and now what we're going to do with the Greenwood Project, that's 45 minutes south of Atlanta, Georgia, is we are going to bring some of those skill sets back to the forefront, while at the same time, this time, let me just say this unfiltered. I triple dog double fucking dare you to come try to take it from me.
All right, this is gonna be on Rumble, so don't.
So yeah, I'm not the ability to take what we know, information, education. If you want to say the evolution of our society, right? If you decide that you are going to try to deny me passing information and knowledge on to people, and you decide that this time you're gonna, burn it down again.
Yeah, for all that.
Then you get to meet why I've been doing professional firearms training for 22 years, and you'll have a problem.
Exactly.
So I don't, as a civil rights advocate, I have no problem talking about it, but I also don't promote victimhood. So there is a balance there. And Greenwood is going to be for the community enrichment. Make this very clear about the Greenwood Project. It is not a project that will discriminate against up in anyone. So let me be very clear. If you are a white kid, and you have a problem reading, you want to learn how to farm, you are welcome to Greenwood. Let me just say that like that. This is not an issue of, we're not going to build a country by going back to some of the old ways.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that stuff doesn't necessarily help us. So it is open to everybody, but the spirit of what we're doing is absolutely based off what my ancestors faced. But also, moving forward, we are trying to help mankind and humankind, but pray for any individual that tries to stop us. So the tagline is rebuilding what was lost.
Absolutely. And it's cool that you mentioned that. I actually get to have a little bit of a funny moment. I'll blow this up on there, in a little lighthearted moment, because at the museum it was a full production. Like, they hired actors and stuff like that, and you could sit down in a barber chair and see kind of what it was like to listen to the banter and the conversations that was going on in one of the barbershops.
Awesome.
And again, they did the whole ghost, Force Ghost thing, obviously, but it looks like they're cutting your hair and stuff like that while they're having the conversation. And
that is really cool.
They recreated it like it's in the wall from the original place where it was.
That is really cool.
And again, there's just so many cool stuff there. But again, there's also a lot of, of course, this right here, the picture of I don't think I can show this on. Well, I might be able to show this on Rumble, so this part won't be on YouTube. But they actually had.
Oh, they talked about Red Summer. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talked about Red Summer.
Yeah, they got the Klansman outfit there.
Yeah, they got the Klansman outfit there. And again, I didn't get a picture of this. I thought I did. You know those little subscriber cards you get in magazines?
Yeah.
There was one for the Klan.
Of course.
I was like, when people talk about that this existed, to see it physically, I can, obviously it was behind glass, I couldn't touch it, but holy crap, this was real. This was, not that the thing was real, but the fact that they were open about recruiting that way was, it was mind-blowing.
Well, and you know what the crazy thing is? I think there's a balance. There's nuance to most conversations. Some people think everybody around every corner that's a bald-headed, bearded white dude with tattoos is a Klansman, right?
Right.
And then there are other people on the other extreme end that are like, that stuff doesn't even exist. So here's my challenge to that. Think about it like this. Are we still finding, hunting, and arresting and imprisoning Nazis.
That's a good question.
If you look it up, we're still doing it.
They're still doing it.
So what that tells us now, they're getting. I mean, they're pretty much like. I'm pretty sure it's like maybe half of one left because I mean, age
Right.
is just taking us out,
Yeah,
right?
most of them are dying.
They are dying off.
Yeah.
But in recent history, we are still hunting these people around the world, not just in America, but around the world, and locking them up because they were committing atrocious acts.
Right.
They lost in a war. When it's anybody waged a war, like an open war, you will be killed on sight against the KKK.
I do have a favor.
So that means that those members were able to still spread that message and permeate inside of the fabric of America.
Right.
They're still here. Now, do I think it's the extreme version of, oh my God, everybody's no? But do I think it's nil? No.
Oh no, it's definitely still there.
It's still there. I mean, the sheriff in the town that deputized the people when they broke into the general store and they passed the everyday civilians guns, he deputized people, a lot of them, some of the local iron workers and things like that, but he deputized people by saying, grab a gun, get a nigger. So even when people want to talk about understand your history in general, understand history, and then you go back and you research history, and they're like, you mean to tell me that there was a time a sheriff deputy in 19 anything told people that? Like, yeah, and they did. And they went under deputization and murdered people.
Yeah, and that's
so-
that's freaking heartbreaking.
I mean, it is what it is.
It happened, you know. So to ignore the fact that it happened, it really is just sheer ignorance.
Yeah, it's cowardness.
That too. You know, it's kind of like the mentality of instead of defending your family, you run. We don't want to talk about that video though, but but anyway, like so, I guess to kind of cap this this video off, what is something that you think that we as a community can do to push things forward?
Listen.
Okay.
Listen to each other, man. I don't know everything that you know. You don't know everything that I know. There is a reason why we have an opinion about something. Sometimes it's from ignorance, lack of knowledge, right? It's just from ignorance. We don't know. Sometimes it's because you have a perception of life, right? It's very isolated. We're in rural Missouri right now. Someone who grew up in a town of 137 people might have a different way of looking at life. Doesn't make them good or bad. They got an experience. I mean, the big town that you have to drive 30 minutes to get to, the big town is 6,000 people. Mm-hmm. The medium towns are, I mean, I just drove through one that was 746 people. Right? So their perspective of life is going to be different. So guys, listen to each other. If somebody has an opinion, hear them out. Don't listen to respond. Listen to learn. Listen to absorb. Hear them out. If you want freedom to move forward, then you have to be willing to listen to the people you claim that you will stand on the battlefield with. Right? So I love all this talk about, oh, brother, when it comes down to it, we're going to lock arms and we're going to be side by side. We can't even have a civil discussion about how we disagree, but we're going to sling lead down range together. You know what's going to happen? We're not going to be unified at all. And I'm not saying it's ever going to get to the point where we have to sling lead, but if it does, I can't get you to hear me out on historical facts without you yelling and arguing. So how are you going to handle...
See you guys.
All right, man. See you, brother. How are you going to handle me giving you directives on the line? How are you going to handle when somebody yells at you? You are a snowflake, right? You're too sensitive. So all those things. If you guys want to progress together, if you want to fix your country, if it's about freedom, if it's about taxes, if it's about this dreadful shit called politics, first thing you should do is listen to the individual, to absorb, not to respond, and turn the fucking TV off and stop following pages because they make you feel good. Most of the people that follow my page because they once hated me. Just facts. They once hated me, but I don't stop. And I'm pretty good at explaining my position. And I'm also pretty good at saying I'm okay with you having a disagreement with me, but we will treat each other like adults.
Yeah, we gotta have
respond accordingly, right? So have that. But if you go to your favorite punting every day to make you feel good, I say something and you're like, well, screw you. That sounds like a leftist thing. Like, all right, yeah, you know this Greenwood project we've been talking about? Guess what kind of political party? Guess what the mayor was? He's a Republican.
He was a Republican.
The governor, Republican.
Okay.
Who instituted modern day gun control? It's this guy named Ronald Reagan. Through the Milford Acts against the Black Panthers, who were labeled as a terrorist organization. And you know what happens when you don't stop it? Kind of like when gun control started in the beginning. This happens from us not listening to each other. So that's what I'm saying is, you know what happens? The same way that we got gun control way back in the 1600s and nobody stopped it. So when Ronald Reagan gave us gun control, nobody stopped it. Guess what? If I want to shut down a white militia, the first thing I do is turn the public against them.
Right.
I label them a domestic terrorist organization. And then the next thing you know, they got a problem with the federal government because I need public support first. It's the same thing they did with the Panthers.
Yeah.
It's the same recipe. So when you don't stop it with one, by not listening to what they're saying to you, it will eventually knock on your front door. Same thing. Oh, I don't care about that gun control in Washington State. I live in Florida.
Fine.
Okay. You get comfortable with that and see what happens. So all that to say, listen to absorb and learn. Pay attention to the person next to you. Understand they have a perspective. Absorb their perspective, and go from there.